All right, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Apologies for the time confusion. The people responsible for that have been sacked. My assistant, myself. I fixed the times for everything. Again, it'll be 6:30 a.m. Pacific. But thank you all for sticking around who did. Let me go find my little welcome message. And if y'all can hear me, drop me a thumbs up in the chat just so I avoid any other mistakes. I joke that at least one thing goes wrong with every live stream. So hopefully we got it out of the way today. Anyway, we are here to talk about Confluence, specifically the certification exam, more specifically managing space content. So I'll give folks just a moment to gather themselves in return before we jump in. Thank you, Justin. I'm going to drop a quick poll. Just a quick question to the group. Did you attend last week's session? And mostly just curious who all's sticking around for these or who all's new. All right, some new folks. Amazing. We'll do a very quick review, just a few bullet points on what we covered last time. The link is available on my YouTube. Let me go grab that for folks, just so you can review it. But each of these sessions covers a new section or area for this particular certification exam. So we might touch on some of the ideas as we go, but really it would be beneficial if you have the time to go back and rewatch the last session. There are also some other resources I have that I can share. This one is about, last week's was about creating spaces and space permissions. So I'll drop that link in our chat. Good morning, Sarah. Good to see you, my friend. Sarah is one of my channel members. I really appreciate your support. It helps me do this, and I'll talk about different ways you can help support me as we go. One of which is just to like and subscribe to this stream very quickly. Just to make a quick edit here. All right, and we are going to get started, folks. Please drop your questions in the chat, as always. Welcome, Dom from Strasbourg. I don't think I'm saying that correctly at all. Oh, I have to hit present. Maybe that was my other mistake. By quick way of introduction, my name is Rob. I've been in the Atlassian ecosystem since about 2013. And I do these trainings to help folks understand how Atlassian's tools work. My goal is to help people be less frustrated with having to use these. In my experience, we tend to be forced to use particular systems, for example, Jira or Confluence, and we never get trained on them. And that was my own experience. I also do these certification trainings so I can earn the certifications. And that all started with me needing my own time to study. So hopefully you all find value from this. I do this professionally. I'm a full-time content creator. Welcome, Rohit. Good to see you, my friend. No worries if you're just lurking in these two. I'll call out Sarah's comment here. Feel free to listen to me in the background or come back. I just appreciate that you all are here studying and learning with me. Please hit the subscribe button and the like button if you like this. I don't have a 9-to-5 job really anymore. I do some contracting in the Atlassian ecosystem to keep my skills fresh and to help pay the bills. But mainly I focus on learning content like this. So I have numerous YouTube live streams that cover this type of thing. Monday mornings at 6:30 a.m. and I have fixed the times. I will talk about the ACP level certification, so the professional or more admin level. And then other days of the week I'll do other things. This Thursday a talk on JQuil. I also have a learning site that I will share. Specifically, there is a course I have on the ACP-120 if you're looking for more learning. And I have two options for folks. One includes an exam voucher, one does not. So if you're looking to sit and take this exam, this learning course might be a good option for you, especially because you'll get a bit of a discount on paying for the exam. But the easiest, simplest way you can support me, just hit the like button. I will also talk about my friends at Service Rocket. They are directly below my head. As we go, they have a great program that allowed me to continue to do what I love doing while staying in the Atlassian ecosystem called Crew Members. So the next simplest way is just check out that QR code. I'll put the link in the chat as well. But they provide a way for us to get contract work in Atlassian. So if you're certified, if you have a background in Atlassian work, you can work with Service Rocket to keep your skills up. Okay, quick review from last week with space permissions. There are two kind of permissions that impact every space: the create space permission and personal space permission. These are both set globally. So as a app admin, as a Confluence app admin, we can turn these on or off. Typically, most people don't have the ability to make a space. We want to keep that a little bit focused because otherwise we'll end up with a whole bunch of spaces all called support or all called one particular thing. And that's just because people want to do the right thing and they end up making quadruplicate versions of the same space. Personal spaces are also by permission. Most groups have this turned on. But within a space, the space permissions themselves can be copied in from another space. So if you have multiple spaces that all have the same groups working in them, you can just copy the permissions between them. There is a default set of permissions that we as app admins can set up, and that's all that we covered last week. Here we're going to dig more into content administration. So what is it like to organize and maintain content? How do we help manage it? We'll talk about some of the technical features within Confluence that we have. Our friends, labels. I'm sure you all love labels. But also some of the thought leadership around it that we as admins are responsible for. So we'll be focusing on this 13% of the exam. Again, when I think of the exam and where I focus my time, I tend to pick the big bucket items first. Access and permissions is right at the top of my list because it's a fifth of the exam. But content admin is up there as well. It's the third largest bucket behind space setup and general settings. So this is an important area of Confluence which makes sense to me as a user, because most people, most of the time, are going to be interacting with the content of the space. And so if it isn't set up properly, if we as admins haven't curated it and organized it in a way that makes sense, folks won't get much use out of it. And that makes Confluence very, very frustrating to use. In our learning path, and I'll drop this link in our chat, quick call out to Frank. Yes, we can change the default permissions for space settings. This is done at an org level. Again, check out the video from last week to see how you can do this. But there is a default setting that'll be loaded when a new space is made. Our content management is split between two sections in our learning path. One is here under Manage Your Space Content, and the other is here under Manage Confluence Spaces. We'll start out on the left here, and we're looking for Manage Pages in Confluence. All right, so this will be within a space. So this is something our space admins can also benefit from. And this is something that much of what we talk about today, I'll also walk my space admin through just so they understand it. Because the space admins, there's a lot of space admins and they can all help us out. And they are really the ones responsible for the content within their own space. So something as simple as moving a page is an important topic that they need to understand. Now, this can be very, very simple. In the current permission setup, if you can create a page, you can edit a page. And if you can edit a page, you can move a page. And what we're seeing in this, and we'll do this live, is just click and drag. This is also something we have to be aware of. If anyone has the ability to make content, they can adjust the content hierarchy. There's no way to stop this right now. And this drives a lot of groups crazy because they want to be able to allow, say, Rohit, the ability to make a page, but they don't want Rohit to mess up the organization. We can't do that yet. So please be aware, this may or may not show up on the exam, but if you can move a page, if you can edit a page, you can move pages. And keep in mind that when you grab a parent, if there are pages under it or content under it, the entire branch will move. So I'm quickly going to pop into Confluence Cloud. This is a premium instance. And I'll see, my Zoom was giving me some trouble. There we go. Moving, I can just click and drag. But if I click and drag this entire branch, you'll notice the whole thing moves. So this is something if folks aren't aware, they'll accidentally reorganize your content hierarchies. And this can be very frustrating. So please make sure your teams are aware if they can create content, they have the ability to adjust the hierarchy. And there's nothing we can do to stop that. So that is just an annoyance in the current way permissions are set up. I don't know offhand if the updates to permissions will change that behavior. Victoria, I hope I'm saying that properly. Is this like the copy page tree? I don't believe there is a copy page tree function at this point. I can duplicate, and let's actually do this right now and just see what happens. Aha, we can. This shows you how frequently I copy or duplicate pages. Now, moving things in the content tree is different than duplicating. Moving them just puts them in a new place. Let's go back to our Confluence analogy of a library. In your library, librarians will move books around all the time to organize things, but that doesn't mean there's two copies of the book. Here, I'm actually going to make another copy of it. So when I duplicate content, and this does relate to managing content, so thank you for the question, we have the ability to replace words in the titles. So I might start, maybe I'll call this Victoria's Lessons Learned. And I want to replace lessons learned with retrospective. So this tool allows me to rename some of these pages and also do things like copy labels, which we'll talk about, and restrictions. But a duplication will give me two versions of that page, or rather a brand new copy. Version's the wrong term because version means something different. But this allows me to make a second one. And we'll see how long this takes to duplicate. There we go. So now in my content hierarchy, I have both of these sets of pages. I've got my lessons learned. This is the original. And it's got these three children. And I've got my copy. And the thing to notice about the copy is just the name updated, because that's what I asked Confluence to do. Instead of, lessons learned, it says Victoria's retrospective. Now keep in mind, this doesn't change the content of the pages. So it's just doing like a command or control C, command or control V. The content on the pages is identical. I've got the same exact page properties and excerpts on both of these pages, and everything else will be the same. So this could be, I'll use the term dangerous or annoying depending on what's on here. Typically, I don't find myself duplicating content too frequently. Usually what I find people doing is they will find a page that they want to use as a template and duplicate that. So that's the most common way I have seen people duplicating. When I notice them doing that, I go make them a template. So when they create a page, they have an actual Confluence template they can use. But this is another way to manage content. I can duplicate things. Just keep in mind I then end up with a copy of it in the hierarchy that I can then move around and treat entirely separately from everything else. Thank you for the question, Victoria. Hopefully that was the answer you were looking for. Just a quick shout out to my friends at Service Rocket. The link in the chat will take you to the crew member program. Easy way to support me. Click on that link. That just lets them know you heard about them through me and get more information about that program. Again, I do that for short-term contracts with them. It's allowed me to, get some work and keep learning about Atlassian between 9 to 5 jobs. Now we can move between spaces, and this is where permissions can get challenging or frustrating. We can easily within the space just click and drag and move things, but we can also pick up content and move it between those spaces. In the library analogy, this would be like moving a book between rooms in the library. To do this though, you have to be a space admin in the current space and have view and add permissions in the other space. So it's not just enough to be a space admin or have edit permissions in the space you're in right now. You have to be a space admin where you are and have view and add in the other space. A question like this will probably show up on the exam. There are no gotcha questions. They're not trying to trick you. But if you don't understand this requirement of having space admin in one and view and add in the other, it's going to feel challenging. So if I go into Confluence and I try to copy something between spaces, I might get a restriction or an error just saying I can't, or I might not be able to select the space. And so that's where if I go into my move, I can select the space I want to move it into. if I don't see the space or if I run into errors, it might be because I don't have view and edit in employee onboarding. Now, if I can move, it's just going to pick up this content and put it in there. So this means I have that permission, but if I'm missing view and add, I'll run into a problem. Now, this is something that we're seeing less and less. There is a new editor, or the cloud editor. Older pages in Confluence will be using what's called a legacy editor. I typically only see this when we migrate or move from data center to cloud. So most people, most of the time, will not run into this. And I actually can't demo this because the instance I have only has the new cloud editor. Just keep in mind, there is an option to auto-convert pages. I'm not totally aware of all the implications behind auto-conversion. Groups I work with will typically convert, and again, most groups I work with just have everything in the new editor. So if anyone in the chat knows the exact differences, that would be good to know. It can break some of the elements, some of the macros on the page. So that's the thing to just keep in mind. And again, we can't enable this automatically by space. So there is a space setting that I can go into. I'll just do my search. More action space settings. General. Under convert pages. So this is just telling me if there are any legacy pages, they'll automatically be converted. Okay, there are two ways we can add and remove content, and I'll drop a quick poll. So the question is, do general users have the ability to delete content in your organization? And I'm asking this because most places where I've worked, I've never been able to delete content. And I'll explain why as we go. We have two options for taking things out of our content tree. So if I go back to my space, I've got Victoria's retrospective over here. And maybe I want to get rid of that. Maybe Victoria's moved on to a new job. Maybe this content is stale. Maybe for some reason it's just cluttering things up. I need to get rid of it. I could delete it or I could archive it. First, we'll talk about archiving, and that removes it from the tree, but it maintains it in the spaces archive, and links to it will still work. So that's an important part of it. Things that have been archived will still be linkable, or rather existing links won't be broken. I could delete things. Deletion sends them to the trash, but it's going to break the links, and only a space admin can bring it back. Things that have been archived can be unarchived by anyone with the archive permission. So archival will just put things in a new spot. It's still accessible by old links, and anyone with the archive permission can take it out. Deletion is only through the space admins. And Rohit's got a point around legacy editor. Some add-ons like Confluence, I always say that wrong, recommend using the legacy editor. Interesting. I'd be curious on that one. I don't know a lot about their particular add-ons. That almost suggests that their add-on isn't updated to the new editor. And this is where I don't know enough about development and coding. But interesting they'd say leave it the legacy editor on. Thank you for that, Rohit. Now, archival and deletion are controlled by space permissions. So if I quickly go into my space settings, I'm going to look for, where'd you go? Space access users. There are, right here under pages, what databases, smart links. Excuse me, this one. If you have the archive box checked, you can both archive and unarchive things. And deletion is a separate one. You'll notice delete shows up in a couple spots. You can delete your own stuff, delete any content, delete comments, etc. For the purpose of deleting content, we're really looking at delete own, delete whiteboards, databases, smart links, and delete blogs. Because anything we delete from there ends up in the trash. Now going back to this, I'll see these both under the more actions and also in the top right. I'll start with just archiving this. Now it's going to ask me if I need to archive the nested items, so the children. So I can archive the entire tree. And archiving is also going to ask me to add a note. Why are you archiving this? Please always add a note. This is really important, just to help ensure that the next person looking at this knows why you archived it. Maybe we have some policy. Every 6 months, we archive off retrospectives. I'm making up examples. I'll just click archive. I'll get my confirmation, and it's just gone from the sidebar. Now, it's just kind of invisible. It's not going to show up visually, and it's not going to show up in general search. So if I try and find this, did they change general search again? Hang on. I love when I learn things live. There used to be an explicit tick box we had to change to search through the archive. That may have been updated. Oh, it's right here. Search archived content. So if we're searching for something in the archive, it may not show up unless we've ticked that box. Apparently, it is now also showing up in our search. Regardless, I'll have to look into that. Sorry, get out of my Zoom. When you find archived content, you'll get this big black bar at the top saying it's archived. So this is just a visual indication of where it is. You'll also notice I can't see it in the hierarchy. This is expected. Now I have the ability to restore this because I have the archive permission in the space. Typically where I find this is under space settings. And I'll just look for the archive. So archived content. And here I can see all the archived stuff, those 4 pages we had archived. I can restore all or some of these. Oh, it looks like I can't bulk restore them anymore. I can restore these just by clicking on restore. And I'll get a similar menu pop up. Are you sure you want to restore? Do you want to restore all of them? Yes. I'll click continue. And then I have the option of where does it go. This is something I can't do when I undelete something. So this is a big difference. I can pull something out of the archive and put it back under a specific page, or even under no page. And it will track the last parent it had. This one just lived under the home page, but if this was under, say, informational page, there'd be a little note saying, here's the original parent. I can just restore this back to wherever it was. And then it will be like nothing ever changed. The content will just exist, and it gets rid of that black bar at the top. If, however, I delete this, we have a much different story. Deletion will put something in the trash, and Confluence is first going to ask, are you sure you want to do this? I get this message saying, here's what you're doing. Yes, send all the items to the trash, for example. And it's going to ask if I want to archive them instead. So we always get this alert. Are you sure you don't want to archive this? I'm just going to move it to the trash. This looks similar. It's out of the sidebar. The difference is it doesn't show up in search anymore. Or shouldn't show up in search anymore. This must just be a delay in Confluence's index. There we go. Ooh, helps if I spell your name properly, my friend. So this search is just taking a moment to update, but we can see the content doesn't exist anymore. That also breaks any incoming links. So that's something else I need to consider. Archive stuff I can still link to. I need a shrug unknown option. Fair. This is why typically folks don't have deletion, because it breaks all those inbound links, and only a space admin can pull it out of the trash. Now, things are not automatically purged. Once they go to the trash, they're not gone forever. They can be restored, but they won't be just purged, completely, permanently deleted. if I purge something, you cannot recover it, period, full stop. So this is another reason why we don't want just anyone deleting and we don't want just anyone purging. We want to be very careful and very selective. I can restore items from the trash, but you'll notice I don't get that message saying, hey, we'll also grab all of the children. So deletion also does things like breaks the parent-child relationship. These were children pages. They are no longer child pages. And it does not allow me to select where the content should go. So here I have that space, and I can see that that retrospective was just put at the bottom of the content hierarchy. So this is why deletion is at best annoying, at worst really, really bad. Because if I purge something, it's just gone. There's no recovery, there's no backup, unless my admin somehow exported it somewhere. So that's the difference between archival and deletion. I spent a lot of time there because it does come up and you will get questions on the exam, but also it's just a day-to-day thing that we as admins need to understand. There's another shout out here about deletion. If you delete a parent, the child pages just move up to the next thing in the hierarchy. So keep in mind that deletion can have a lot of add-on or knock-on impacts to other content in your space. For example, giving them a new parent, breaking incoming links, damaging macros. So when we delete, we want to be very careful we do it in a way that doesn't damage things too much. Excuse me. Quick water break for Rob, a quick like break for everyone on the stream. Please just hit the little thumbs up at the bottom if you like this. Simplest way to support me. And then check out my friends at Service Rocket, the QR code below, or the link in the description. All right, restoring versions. I mentioned the term version earlier. That is a specific thing in Confluence that relates to pages right now. Basically, Confluence keeps a snapshot or a copy of every time we have published a page, so we can go back in time and see what did a page look like. This does not replace other versioning control systems or ideas or ISO requirements you have. This is just a way of Confluence being nice and saying, hey, here's what the page looked like a week ago when Rob published it, so you can restore it or see what happened. There are marketplace apps and other ways to provide more structure around your versioning. This is just one way to keep track of what's going on. I'm going to go back into our page. And up in the top right, I've got more actions and then version history. And we can see there's one version. This particular space doesn't have too much, so let me quickly just go change something here. Again, every time the update button is pressed, it should be versioning the page. So now I can see there's two versions, the current version and version 1. I can see who changed it, if it had a status or if there was a comment. And I can also do things like restore an old version or even delete an old version. And that deletion is why this is not like for compliance purposes. This is more just for, hey, someone made a whoopsie. And I want to go back and confirm what did it look like. I'm going to quickly throw up a poll. And I need to add the shrug indifferent for my friend. There we go. Now I can compare these versions. I can tick 2 of these boxes, and then I've got to compare selected versions. And this just shows me visually what is different. So if something was added, it's green. If something was removed, it's red. And if formatting was modified, it's blue. So I can just see, oh, Rob came in and deleted this red stuff and added this green stuff. This is a very simple example, but this can be very useful if a policy document changes or something that's a little bit more important. We can also, come back, versions. If you are on premium or higher, you can use Atlassian Intelligence or AI to just summarize the differences, and it will try to figure out what's different. The version history is also used, I'm pretty sure, to give you a page summary or what differences happened on this page since you were last there. So this is another use of AI we're going to see just popping up. Again, available in, I think it's standard and higher because Rovo's been extended. But again, a very useful tool for figuring out, hey, I think there was a difference. What's changed since I was last here? And restoring the content, returning it to its prior state if that's what you need to do, but does not replace an official change management tool or versioning system. Oh, wow, looks like a lot of us have used versioning. Great. All right, this next topic might be a little potentially contentious. I'm going to end this poll and put up another one about my friend labels. And I'll just like, how do you feel? How do you feel about labels? So how do you feel about labels? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do you not care? Do you not know what they are? Something else? And if you picked love them or hate them, I would love to understand why. Drop a quick chat, or I also have a Discord server where we have interesting debates over things like this. Just live chat to continue support on our study sessions. But I'm always curious how folks are utilizing and leveraging a lot of these tools. Labels in particular, I've seen people love them. I've seen people get driven crazy by them. And kind of the whole gamut. Now, a label is just, well, they say it's a keyword you can add to pages. To update these to the Twitter generation, to put us 20 years ago or 15 years ago, it's kind of like a hashtag on a page. Now, right now, pages are the only piece of content that support labels. Tushar, welcome, my friend. Rohit, I assume you like them because they help with search. Yes. Labels are for the system to help find pages and for you as humans to know what's going on and for other features to tie into. So labels are, we could call it like metadata. It's data about data. The challenge many people have with a label is if you can create pages, you can create labels. And this means over time, you're going to end up with a lot of labels. And this includes things like typos. This includes abbreviations. For example, I have seen engineering, engineering-team, eng-team, all to indicate it's about engineering. And they're challenging to manage without a marketplace app. As an admin, I have no way of seeing a list of labels easily. Or rather, I have no way of managing and controlling those labels. There are some workarounds, and maybe I'll have a live session just on how to deal with that. However, they are very useful. There is some best practice. It's best when they're used consistently, and you use existing labels. And they even call out this problem of onboarding versus on-boarding, which is the correct one to use. I'll quickly pop into Confluence and just show us where they live. Awesome. On a page, oh, they got rid of the labels hotkey. Boo. You used to be able to hit the L button on your keyboard, and it opens up. Instead, I'll have to go up. Am I going crazy? Let me refresh this page. Okay, it was a deleted page. Whew. This one. There we are. No, the labels hotkey does work. Okay. So from the page, I can just hit the L button on my keyboard, and it's going to zoom me down to the bottom. And open up the add label area. Now this always lives at the way bottom of the page, so it's kind of hidden. But from here, I can just type in a label. And you'll see as I type, it is suggesting existing labels on board. So this is where I, as the admin, have to work with my team. I have to tell everyone, hey, there's going to be a list of labels as you type. Don't make a new one until you've looked at all the existing ones. The other thing I, as an admin, do is I sometimes make a page and just call it like intended labels or the labels we should use or read this before you use labels, something like that. And then list all the labels I want my team to use and why we use them. So to add the label, I can just click on it. Now labels can also be added by automations and other things, but as a human, I try to add a few labels to the page to describe what's on there. This will both signal to someone when they're looking at the page, hey, it's about onboard. But also I can go up to search, and I have a filter by label. I really am still getting used and struggling with the labels filter. Fine. I'll do it this way. Oh no, I spelled it wrong. I can use the filters to narrow down my results by the labels on the pages. This is something we have to teach our team about. Like, hey, just a heads up, labels exist within search and you should use them. So that's something I include in I'm onboarding someone to my company. But it speeds up our ability to find things. They also live in some macros or elements to help find things that come in. Frank's got a good point here, or a good comment. In Jira, there's a thing called a component. This is controlled by admins, and it's a discrete list, so random people can't make new components. Those do not exist in Confluence out of the box. We have labels. And labels, anyone can make a new one. So unfortunately, we don't have a way to easily control it. And we have other ways we have to manage them. I will have some follow-up information on how to manage labels because it is such a pain in the rear end. Okay, quick coffee break for Rob. And we're about split 50-50. Half of us love labels. Half of us don't care. That is fair. I was assuming I'd get more I hate them, but I'm glad it's indifference and not hate. All right, we're going to back out. And I mentioned that our training is kind of split in Atlassian learning around content management. We're going to go into manage Confluence spaces. And while we're talking about learning, I'll also drop a link again to my ACP-220 course. This link includes an exam voucher for the exam. So that's a full 5-hour course and covers all this, but also includes a voucher when you purchase it and complete everything in there. I am looking for organizing and maintaining my Confluence space content. Again, this is 13% of our exam, and this is what I spend most of my time as an admin, I'll say, struggling with, because this is how most people interact with content. I need to make sure as an admin that it's useful stuff, so understanding how to delete is important, and you'll even see some of this information is duplicated in our learning path. We've covered deletion. If you want me to dig more into it, please drop a comment. But we're going to talk about some of the tools we have now to manage content. Oh no, I had one person hate them. Tushar, that's an interesting guess. Why do you think they're going to merge the systems, Confluence and Jira? One of you hates labels. I'm sorry. We got one. Now, managing content can be challenging. This space is small. Let me go see if I have a bigger space. Here we go. So this space has a lot more content. Even this is pretty small. There are spaces I work with that have thousands and thousands of pages and pieces of content in them. And this makes it hard for me as an admin to figure everything out or to keep tabs on everything. Quick poll. So there are some new tools that have been added. For example, the Content Manager. This is right now available just in Premium and Enterprise. I really hope they extend this into more versions because it is so useful. Besides that they want more money aspect, I can see why this wouldn't be in standard. It might not be as small, as big. However, you can see this gives us another view of our content, as well as some information around it. Who is the owner? When were they active? How many views has this particular page gotten? So it gives us as admins a way to look at what's going on and then to control it, to manage our content. Hence the name. Sorry, I had to put that out there. Now it's got a lot of different features and things within it. To use this, we need to be a space admin. So I'll just open up Content Manager under Space Tools. It also lives in my sidebar right up here. But this will look exactly like the content hierarchy. And it is just a mirror of the hierarchy with additional information. So I get the name of the content, the owner, when the page was last active. And this is just defined as someone going to look at the content. So log stash monitoring has never been accessed or never been viewed. I see how many views it's gotten, if it had a status, and what labels it had. So this is another place labels pop up, and this helps me as the admin manage it and figure out what is log stash monitoring. Oh, it relates to runbooks. That's important. Or, oh, I've got known error. Maybe we don't need this. We fixed the error. From here, though, I can tick boxes and then do things. So once I tick the boxes, annoyingly, this menu shows up at the bottom. I would prefer this show up at the top or be a little bit more obvious. I've had people not see this. I can bulk archive, bulk delete, change the owner, change the status, or trigger automations. So right from here, I can look and find the particular pieces of content I need to do something to, and then take action against all of them all at once. So this makes it much easier than if I don't have this tool, I would have to go into the space and kind of just look at the hierarchy and try and guess, like, are people looking at this one? I don't know. Let me open it. Let me go see when it was last updated. Let me scroll down and look at the labels. Is this useful? That is a way to do it, and it's going to take you a long time and frustrate you. So instead, we just have this content manager that helps us out. Again, keep in mind, this is only in Premium and Enterprise, unfortunately. But from here, I can take bulk actions to maintain things. I can also search through or filter what shows up. So I might say only show me deactivated owners. I actually don't know if there are any. I don't have any. Or only show me things owed by a certain person. Or only show me things in a certain status or that have a certain label, again, to manage my content. One thing I cannot do from here is rearrange the hierarchy. So I can't click and drag and like move stuff around. I don't know why. It's just annoying. I can reorder using a reorder tool that's hiding under content. So just a quick shout out to this reorder tool. Here, I can click and drag and move things, just like I could in the hierarchy. I can't do it from Content Manager, so it's a two-step process. That personally drives me crazy. But the Content Manager is a much easier way to manage and maintain things. It's something I look at on a, depending on the space, weekly or monthly basis. And it's something I make sure my space admins know about because it is such a useful way to take care of everything. Yeah, so definitely worth checking out Content Manager when you can. We can filter in there. We can do bulk changes. All right, hidden pages. Hidden pages are a lot harder to get in cloud. I tripped over a lot of them in data center, but basically a hidden page doesn't have a parent and doesn't have any incoming links. So there's no way to find them unless you have the hyperlink. There is a there is a tab as a space admin that will show them. Let me just go into content real quick. But someone has to try pretty hard to hide a page. I haven't seen one in Confluence Cloud, just because it is so challenging. You have to take it out from under the parent, the root page of the space, and ensure it doesn't have links anywhere. So someone has to really try hard to make this happen, but we can see a list of them. And again, a hidden page has no parent and no incoming links. So to do this, I'm going to go make a page and see if I can force this problem to happen. I will just make a new page. I will call it hidden page. I won't even put any content on it. And then I'm going to go back in to my space settings because I have to get this above the root page of the space. So in my reorder tool, I can see this orange one, IT operations. That's the root. That's the parent of every page. I'm just going to put hidden page above it. And there's no links to hidden page because it's brand new. So this should be a hidden page. This is very uncommon because it requires someone to be a space admin, I believe. Make a page, come into reorder, move it above the root, and make sure there's no links. If there's a single link to hidden page, it won't be hidden. So that's something that could be a challenge. You might have a page that only has an inbound link from one random page, so folks can't find it easily, but it won't show up here because it's not actually hidden. It's just hard to find. And a hard to find page is not a hidden page. From here, though, I can come and do things like edit or delete it. And we can see when I edit it, it does show up in the content hierarchy above my home page. And when I refresh, it shows up. So this is where, for me, hidden pages are really hard, if not impossible to have. Only because even this hidden page, in quotes, is shown in the hierarchy. To fix it, I just come back into my reorder and put it under a parent. And that'll make it unhidden. Oh, Confluence, come on. Almost there. So let's click and drag. Bleep. Now it's unhidden. Frank's got a shout out on hidden pages. Common strategy to separate pages from the page tree, or have the page tree next to a standard one that is restricted. So there is a use case for them. Again, in my personal experience, I haven't bumped into them too much. And as Frank's suggesting, if it's being intentionally done, that's fine. The hidden thing exists, I think, mainly to make sure if someone does it accidentally. Because I could easily see someone getting frustrated if their content magically disappears. All right, last thing we're going to talk about are restrictions. Another quick poll. And I can only do 4 answers in these polls, so just a scale from not very comfortable to super comfy with restrictions. Now, for the purpose of Confluence, strict restrictions and permissions are 2 specific things. A permission is at the space or app level, so it is a permission to create content in a space. It is a permission to make permission to have a personal space. Restrictions impact content. And I've been using the term page and content kind of interchangeably, and that's just bad habit. But any content that appears in our content hierarchy can be restricted, and we can control who can access it. And this, for me, is one of the most frustrating aspects of it, just because most people have troubles understanding it. And I'll drop this link again, but check out the crew member program over at Service Rocket. I need to keep shouting them out. They are sponsoring this particular video and helping me out. So just click on that link or hit that QR code. That lets them know that you heard about them through me. And restrictions are one of the things that most people most of the time struggle with because they might be non-intuitive or you might not even know they are there. So I'll use our hidden page and I'll show us another way to hide it. I can click up on share and it's got this lock icon. And they've changed this in the past year or so. They've made it a little bit harder to figure out. But if I click on open, I can make this restricted. Now this gives me an option to add in a new name. Maybe I'll add in Mitch. And I'll say Mitch can view this page. Now I have to hit share first, and I have the option to notify Mitch. I can add a little message if I want. But once I hit share, only people on this list will be able to see or edit the page. So by default, I get edit access. I don't think you can remove your own view access or your own edit access to something you own, or that you are restricting. But now this lock has changed, it's red. This is a visual indication that there is a view restriction on this. And if I open it up, I'll see who is restricted. And because I can edit this and I have a permission in the space, I can change the restrictions. So I mentioned this permission. Now I won't be able to add a restriction unless I have a permission in the space. So this is something else that drives people nuts. Most places, most of the time, allow people to restrict content. Frank, I'll come to your comment in just a minute. So if I go under my space access, one of the last columns is restrictions. So if I don't have this permission, I cannot add or modify restrictions in the space. Now, note that this doesn't impact inherited restrictions. So I'll talk about inheritance in a minute. But if I don't have the restriction permission, I can't modify restrictions on a piece of content. So that's something else that uncommonly pops up. But I've restricted hidden page. If I put other things under it, they will inherit the view restriction. So if I open this up, I'll see that priority matrix is now restricted. And it's going to tell me it's restricted by a parent. I can add a further restriction. So the parent might allow only HR to edit, but everyone can view. Maybe the child, only specific people in HR can view. I narrow down the restriction. I can also just click on this link to see the parent. And this is a very useful troubleshooting method where I can now go to the parent and see the restrictions on the parent to figure out who has access. Now, the important thing to remember, a view restriction will be inherited. So this is saying Mitch can view, no one else can. This means any child, Mitch and I can view, but no one else can. Edit restrictions are not inherited. So Mitch might be able to edit a parent. That doesn't mean he can edit the child. If he can view it, though, that restriction will carry down to the children. Frank's got a good point in the chat. Restrictions work on top of permissions. So when we consider our permissioning, I first have to have a license into Confluence. Then I have to have access to the space. If I don't have access to this IT operation space, I won't be able to see hidden page regardless of any other restriction. So we think of our higher level permission is looked at first. And if I don't have access to the space, can't see the page. Then it looks at the restriction. It also works the other way. If I put a view restriction on hidden page, this does not mean someone can't create something. Because the ability to create content is a permission. It's not a restriction. If I have the ability to view hidden page, but I don't have the ability to edit it, I might also be able to add a child to it. I just can't edit this content. So keep in mind, restrictions and permissions are two wholly separate things, and I think of it as narrowing down focus. I want to make sure Frank can view this, but he can't edit it. If I don't want Frank to see anything in IT operations, I'll just remove him from the space permission so he can't see anything at all. And it looks like most of us are fairly comfortable with restrictions. They are one area that I deal with the most in terms of just end users not understanding why something works or doesn't. There is another thing to consider in just permissions and restrictions. We have the ability to add groups. For example, the org admin group. If we're using groups, we as space admins or we as Confluence admins don't know who is in the group. There's no way for me to tell, let me bring this back, sorry, who is in the org admin group unless I have a list of it written down somewhere, or I happen to be an org admin and I can go look at that list. This means it's possible for me to give org admins edit access, and Mitch happens to also be an org admin. I'll just share this. Then if I come in and I remove Mitch, he might still get access. And he might still get access because he's an org admin. This is another area that's very frustrating because we as space or even app admins don't know who is in this group. This same problem shows up on permissions. If I go into my space permissions and I want to give someone some kind of access, or maybe I want to take away Alana's access, I can remove her from the users. But if she's in any one of these groups that also happens to give her access, she will still have access. And this is where it can be very frustrating untangling things. All right, one more comment from Frank. Love to define restrictions based on classification, page type, label. We can use automations to apply restrictions. I don't think that's exactly what you're talking about, Frank. And I wonder if in Atlassian Guard, a wholly separate process, there's data classification, if that can be used to help control access to things. All right, folks. That's the wrong date. That should say November 3rd. And I promise the time is correct. That is not everything about managing content. There's a lot to learn about managing content, but those are the basics or the pieces we need in terms of this exam. We as admins can't know enough about managing and maintaining content in Confluence. And that's because that's the core of Confluence. It's a collaboration platform. It's what people go in there to learn. The permissions and everything are important, but most people are interacting with the pages, the databases, the whiteboards. So please go in there and get hands-on with it. Please go in there and talk to people about it. Please keep engaging with content because we cannot know too much about it. If you're planning on taking the exam, definitely make sure you're studying on your own. Take your notes. If you're looking for more support on it, please reach out in Discord. We've got a great group in there who will help you out. Please check out my learning course, and that's linked above right there. That also includes an exam voucher. There's a version that does not have the voucher that's cheaper. And check out my friends at Service Rocket. Let them know you heard about them through me just by clicking the link or by following that QR code. I'll see you next week on November 3rd, which is Monday, at 6:30 a.m. Pacific, 6:30 a.m. For those of us who practice daylight savings occurs the day before, I believe. So please double check your clocks. And for folks who are not doing daylight savings, this might mean we're an hour off. So please double check our time there. I'll do my best to remind folks of that difference. But please also reach out to me, robert@heen.tech. Find me in Discord or elsewhere. And thank you all for learning about managing content. In cloud, you should check access settings in the org to avoid users from the domain just adding themselves. That's a broader concept, Frank, and for sure, it's something we need to consider is how do people get access, and then making sure we're aware of when people get them. I'll leave the chat open for just a minute, folks, but please let me know what questions you have, what else is popping up, and thank you all again for learning with me. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you all again soon.